Huge drill. Ships from U.S., Australia, and Japan conduct joint drills in the South China Sea in defiance of Beijing. Of course, this is Australia, Japan, and the U.S. have been working very, very tightly together recently. And of course, we had the whole ruckus with AUKUS with Australia and the submarines and France and all of that go down. Japan, of course, is now an offensive country. They are changing their overall constitution to be an offensive country to essentially join in and to protect their assets, right? Well, as far as Japan, they have also said that they would help not only with Poland, with Russia, they even pledged support for Ukraine. So there's a lot going on right now. What we are looking at in this drill is the same thing we looked at when Russia set up on the border of Ukraine. Are they going to set up barracks, set up hospitals, things like this in their drill, and then leave it there? It says that warships from the United States, Australia, and Japan have held joint drills in the South China Sea in defiance of Beijing, which claims sovereignty over virtually the entire strategic waterway. We actually talked about when they released the map, which was a big step. They released a map stating all of the areas that were theirs. Before that, they just kind of said, when you went into an area, they would holler at you on the radio and say, hey, this is what we claim is ours. But they never put out an official kind of, map of, hey, this is ours. Now they have, and they say that they're going to enforce these maps. Well, this map basically overlays a ton of countries' claims, including Japan, and of course they have their issues with Australia. They've had big issues with Australia since CV when they did the tariff war. It says the U.S. 7th Fleet that oversees most of the U.S. Navy operations in the region said that the guided missile destroyer USS John Finn and combat ship USS Gabrielle Giffords carried out operations with Navy ships from Japan and Australia on Wednesday and Thursday. There is no word on whether the exercises were conducted close to the islands and shoals claimed by Beijing. Fugl-Fam Military and Fugl-Fam Navy, current actively serving, said that they did island hopping exercises. I don't see any of this in the actual news. We know that they've been doing island hopping exercises for the last few years. It's actually become a big thing, especially since now they have contracts that are newly finished with all of the amphibious drop ships. Think, D-Day drop ships, only way more technologically advanced and way more protective. They don't have them getting haircuts. The whole thing is encased. So they've been doing these drills. Did they set up anything? So we will see. More and more ends up coming out. More gets leaked over a couple weeks, especially when you have a lot of military members in the audience that may actually get some stuff. So we'll see what happens with this. Again, they are doing massive drills right now. We are also seeing the largest NATO drill in history being done, and it's going to be over the next few months. So we'll see what ends up happening. Tonight, we're going to talk about everything. We, of course, had the interview go live with Putin and, of course, Tucker. And 30 minutes into it, everybody's like, hey, Moscow's on fire. Then, a couple minutes later, they're like, the president has an urgent announcement. Everybody goes, whoa, is he going to announce that we just struck Russia or something? People thought it was the announcement or the declaration of war. He came out and said, I'm mad. They said I mishandled documents and I didn't. Then he walked off stage, came back, and then totally made a gaffe of himself, messed up different people. It was a mess. We'll talk about that. We'll show you that later again, but we have so much more. So just to give you kind of an idea of what is going to happen if you stick around, we're going to talk about the U.S. destroyer headed to Japan, China Coast Guard versus Japan. We have North Korea's Kim will wipe out enemies. We have Putin mic drop with Tucker. We have, is Russia on fire? Well, we know it is, but how bad? And then, of course, was bumbling a distraction? And, of course, no turkey for Putin. Who's funding China's military tech? UKR, big changes in staff. Stealing U.S. nuclear secrets. We have end of nuclear secrecy. And half of France had their data stolen. X-flares are incoming. We have a wages video for that as well, or a live that you can go link to. There is a huge solar event happening right now. So stick around. We have a lot to go over. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Now they want to flip this fit and want to close the border. Now that we see that we're using low loader. Now that the war is inching closer. As always, you can get every single article, tweet, video, picture, document over on our website where we have a full bibliography. We put this together every single day. We go through all of the news. Everything you see here on this show was prepared before this live event. So again, that is available right at your fingertips at marfooglenews.com. On top of that, of course, if you see any affiliate during the show, if you want to go support them, you end up supporting us and you end up supporting yourself in the way of prepping yourself up. So we appreciate that. Thank you guys very much. Most importantly, though, share us out. And please, if you can, remember, do the like button. That thing, who knows if it works, but it would be really cool to see that our audience just, smashes the craziness out of that to show some love. So thank you so much for doing that. All right, and then let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we foregoed the map. 2 hours of our time today was watching the Putin interview, so we did not have time to put together the live map of everywhere, but that will be back. Dex, do you want to go over the U.S. Navy destroyer set to call in Japan?
And the irony is, this is probably the one article that you really, really wanted on. But I know we have covered this. I covered this exact thing. So what I'm going to tell you about. If you guys remember, we covered a couple shows ago on the map. We were showing you where Japan is, but where all of these little tiny islands, and one of those islands was contested, but they go all the way down to just nearly off the shore of Taiwan. And those are claimed as Japan's country, part of Japan's country. They're also claimed by China. And they're also claimed by, some of them are also claimed by Taiwan. Well, get this. The U.S. Navy is making an arrangement for the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, USS Rafael Peralta, to make port of call in Ishinkai Island from March 11th to 14th. Now, the reason this is so important, if it goes as planned, this will be the first visit by a U.S. Navy destroyer in the politically sensitive island on Japan's southwestern Nancy Island chain, which spans about 1,200 kilometers, extending from the southern tip of Kagoshima towards Taiwan via China. So Ishinkai is also a part of the so-called first island chain. So this is really, really far down that link of little islands that just sort of jut off of Japan all the way down to Taiwan. So we're going to be porting up one of our naval ships there. I think it's sort of a provocation, in my opinion. It's certainly a testing of the boundaries and saying, yes, not only does Japan own this island, but the U.S. is going to park its ship right here too, just to show you the support and sort of put it in the face of China, because China has been contesting these islands heavily against Japan. And we're going to go stick a destroyer right in the middle of it and dock it up.
And to give you an idea, Japan is up here, China over here, Taiwan is there. And it's essentially a line, and I did not know, because when you look at a map or even the satellite images or a Google Earth, you have to zoom in past where you even see the water. You see water until you get very zoomed in to some of these islands that exist. But there are land masses that go essentially all the way from Japan to Taiwan. So it really does kind of put in play why Japan cares so much. You take this one, then you could take that one, then that one, and that one, and then work your way up. Of course, China would love if they ran and owned Japan. I mean, as far as having control of that shipping area and everything around it, that would be absolutely stupendous for any country, let alone for China to have not only that, but everything else. They already have a huge swath of control over that part of the sea, the South China Seas. So it's a big deal. And we have Japan repeatedly spots Chinese Coast Guard and warships near disputed waters. We hear these kind of stories all the time, but at the same time, now everything else is matching up. Everything geopolitically, everything as far as all of the conflicts that are going on right now, all of the comments, all of the statements. Now we are getting closer to war than we've ever been before, at least before World War II or after World War II. And now it's all happening, and it's becoming harder and harder for people to deny that something's about to go down. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have been passing by Japanese-claimed waters for weeks in the East China Sea, and China's warships have been edging near Japan's southwestern islands in recent days. Japan said, a fleet of our four Chinese Coast Guard vessels on Thursday passed just outside of territorial waters of Japan-controlled islands, which Beijing also claims. For the 49th day in a row, the Japanese Coast Guard said. So they are now making pushes. They're trying to do land grabs. Mind you, a land grab could be if they park a boat on it. I mean, as far as the Philippines, the reason they have control over one of their islands is because there's a literal ship that washed up onto the beach, and they have people living on it, so they can therefore claim that island. The longer they live there, the bigger the claim or the better the claim. So as far as Japan's not going to let these islands go. It's incredibly important. It's important in their culture even. All of these islands have significance. So they're not going to give an inch on any of these islands, no matter how big or small. And then as with Japan, there's all sorts of these other events that come into play. And if you've watched the show every day, then you know all about this, because we've covered all of these events happen every single day, every week. But Shinzo Abe getting taken out with a homemade shoddy. And then the whole reason behind it sounded like something that, we had here in the 60s. The event that happened was very sketch, said that the church that Shinzo Abe went, sketched his parents. It does sound like a logical thing, but at the same time, it's like, something else was going on. Within weeks of that, and I maybe that is what happened, but at the same time, it was very convenient that within weeks of that, the party, the needle went to the other side, and all of a sudden they were in support of changing the Constitution and going along with what Shinzo Abe's party wanted, which was to be an offensive country, to get out there. Before, Japan would only strike if they were struck. They call their forces the SDF, the Self-Defense Forces. Basically, they're not going to punch you unless you punch them first. So this is something that is now happening. They have now increased their budget. They are in the top 10 military budgets in the world. I want to say they were in the top 6, but they are now there instead of near the bottom of the barrel. They have completely changed their way of life. They're completely changing their country, and they are absorbing into the rest of the world. Whereas Japan, for a long time, has done things completely opposite than the rest of the world in a lot of areas. I mean, heck, they still use fax machines. They didn't have an equivalent of like a Social Security. They would prefer cash used everywhere. They did a lot of these things on purpose because of all sorts of different reasons, from freaking Yakuza to other reasons. But as far as in their stores there, they will literally have people writing up handmade receipts and all sorts of crazy things, because a lot of folks feel like they're a little bit behind, but they feel like they want to hold on to what they were. But in the last couple years, a ton has changed. They're bringing in new tech. They're bringing in facial recognition stuff. They're bringing in all sorts of different things. And a lot of Japanese people are not exactly happy with it. If they absorb into this, it totally makes sense that everybody is getting involved, including Australia and all of the rest of the parties. Dex, do you want to talk about North Korea? All of this stuff that's going on there with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, so Kim's a little hot under the collar as usual, but the quote really is the point that he's making, and that's coming out from the KCNA there. And he is saying that, hey, we will wipe out the enemies if they use force on us. So he is again making the big the big claims, the big statements. He made the comments during a visit to the defense ministry on Thursday, rallying soldiers to uphold the ideology of the ruling Workers' Party and defend the country with their lives. The KCNA news agency reported, quote, "If enemies try to use force against our country, we will make the bold decision to change history and not hesitate to use all our superpower to wipe them out," end quote. So, again, big words from the guy. He has them all the time, but it's his actions and it's what he's done and the trades he's made with Russia and the technology that he continues to somehow just be able to make, and all of the weapons he's been selling back to Russia. So they're obviously doing something there, and making the right deals with their friendly alliances that they have.
Yeah, things are most definitely changing. Now, a comment about the Losharik. If you guys don't remember, so I'll read the comment here first. So Nikolai says, "I still want to know what happened with the Losharik." If you don't know about the Losharik, it is a very crazy story. We covered it years ago, only a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a very, very advanced submarine that Russia had. I guess they still have it, but it was damaged. 17 sailors died, and in an incident where it caught fire. Now, at the time, if you rewind back to what happened, it was very, very weird. Essentially, they said that 17 soldiers perished, and there was a fire on board it. At the moment it was happening, people thought that the U.S. were underwater, that they struck each other. Maybe they used the red phone. They said, "Hey, we got to calm this down. It's about to be World War III." And they ended up stopping. They were able to tow the submarine out. Not everyone perished. 17 men. Now they state that they sealed themselves in, stood by the fire. They basically perished. But as far as after it happened, the ranking official was at the ceremony for all 17 sailors and stated that these 17 men died heroes. They died avoiding a planetary catastrophe. That was his exact words. Planetary catastrophe. It was absolutely wild. And we're thinking, what kind of planetary catastrophe could this be? A lot of folks thought that they might have been in the area of the, I forget it's a fault at the very, very, very bottom of the sea. Dex, do you know what I'm talking about? Not New Madrid, the crack at the very bottom of the ocean that they say could end the world if they have a seismic thing go off. I can't remember, but you guys get the point. They thought that might have been it. They say it's because if this would have blown up, it had sensitive and nuclear materials, and it could have essentially blown up and possibly caused a tsunami, or it could have radiated the water for 100 years or something. Whatever the planetary catastrophe meant, there has been updates, but they essentially go along those lines, that it was a nuclear thing, and because they sealed themselves in, the fire did not spread to the nuclear reactor, and that's why they saved us from a planetary catastrophe. Around that same time, a lot of weird stuff happened. But you can go back to that show. Just type in Losharik on our website, and you'll find the shows we did that, if that interests you. They called it Losharik. It's actually named after, not kidding, like clowns juggling, because of the ball-like nature of the inside. It was a very special technology. Not even the U.S. government said, they even said that they do not know everything about it. It could go very, very deep into the water, and it was very, very quiet. So this thing was super secretive, could pop up right, in Seattle or New York sometime, and you wouldn't even know they were there. And then Craig Alicious, thank you. Again, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Many folks there, by the way, WS Jen, Gunslinger, thank you for being a member for 8 months. Paul Barbacano, thank you for the $4 super chat. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rob Schick, Prep Mom PA, thank you for being a member, and thank you for subscribing. Lee Mayer, thank you for subscribing. Monkey Wrench, Quagmire, let's see here, Kirk Halsey, Barton McCarty, thank you for subscribing the last 10 minutes. As always, if you subscribe during the show, I always try to shout you out. I appreciate you, and thank you. All right, and then let's see here. Moving on from North Korea, Putin in rare U.S. interview says that Russia has no interest in a wider war. Do you believe him? We will do a quick survey here. When Putin did this Tucker interview, a lot of you have seen it. I know that probably most of you have, but this was not covered on the front page. In fact, the front page, it's almost like they purposely had JB do a bunch of gaffes, so everything on Twitter or everything would be, him going blah 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 blah. I don't remember my blah blah. And even Fox News, which I don't think a lot of people trust anymore, specifically this guy yells out, "Do you even have memory? Can you even be our president?" Almost as if he's like, not trying to get called on ever again. It almost seems staged, right? JB had a quick line. He goes, "Yeah, my memory's bad enough that I forgot that I called on you." So this whole thing was that, everything that was going on with Tucker in this interview was happening. All of a sudden, JB is coming out and making a big announcement. And this is a few minutes after we find out that after the interview airs, Moscow's on fire. People are thinking he's declaring war. He comes out and he talks about the documents. Now, a lot of what U.S. media has said that is Putin is trying to go into a wider war. The Germany leaks that came out, their intelligence says that they believe Russia is imminently going to attack the Baltic states and try to take over. He is stating that they are not interested in taking the rest. At the same time, they say he gave us this big history lesson of why UKR should be a part of it because of all of these reasons. Well, in that same fashion, if he cares that much about the history of it and the roots of it, you would think that he would look at the Baltic states as well. But do you believe that he, again, has no interest in a wider war? What do you believe now after possibly watching the interview, or what do you think? Let me know in the chat below. And press 1 if you think that he wants a wider war and he's going to take the Baltic states. Press 2 if you think he doesn't actually have an interest in it, or put your own answer. Let's see here. James Odison, thank you. Bill Fortenberry just watched the interview. Yeah, it's a long interview. The first half an hour is so. I guess it's because of the translation, and I'll just be honest. I was pretty bored almost the entire time. Tucker doesn't get much input, and of course, what media says about this interview is Tucker doesn't get any time to speak. So surprising. I don't know. I think it's a little split here. Janine D, you have no problem with that. If you go to our website, anything we talk about on the show will always be linked, including that full interview over on Tuck's Twitter. And you'll be able to get to it or watch it there. Let's see here. 3, Sun Tzu, Art of War. Sun Tzu, The Art of War? What do you mean? Like, look weak when you're strong. Throw them off. Do you believe that Putin wants to take over the rest of Ukraine and even have a wider war into the Baltic states and take over Poland and all of that? 1 for yes, 2 for no. And it looks pretty split. There's actually a lot of 1s and there's a lot of 2s. The whole argument is that a lot of folks, are basically not trusting the U.S. anymore. But can you trust Putin? Either way, you're going to have half of the people say, yeah, not going to believe a Russian, Russian president, communist president. But we'll see, I guess. Lots of 1s, actually, surprisingly enough. So especially with all of the crazy comments everywhere else, that's actually, it's leaning in the other direction all over X. And then, let's see here. And then as this is going on, there is a massive fire. And I'll just show you some screenshots of this. This was going on at the same time. So Dex, this was really nuts. Like as this was playing out, me and you it was like every 30 seconds calling each other going, whoa, did you see this? Did you see that? And it's like, we thought this was going to, because of the timing of all of this, it seems very, very coincidental.
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, the fact that it was happening, and it's so big. Now, some reports are that this was a large, it hit across this massive multi-unit residential area with like 4,000 square kilometers or more, roofs falling in, 40, I think it was 40, let me double check that, 4,000 square meters, not kilometers, sorry, 400 people in the buildings, 41 fire engines, firefighting planes and helicopters had been brought into that area. And that's not the only one. If you go watch our other update on the news channel, there was another location, Perm, that had a mysterious explosion there with a big fire that was hitting residential areas and others. And so, yeah, why is this all happening at the same time while they're trying to put this Tucker interview out?
Yeah, was this a strike by UKR? Was this something else? Was this just purely a coincidence that all of these fires went down as they do this? A lot of folks were worried about Tucker. They were saying, protect this man at all costs. A lot of the comments were saying, whoa, is he still there? Was he in one of these residential units? We won't actually know. Maybe tomorrow we'll see a satellite photo and it's just a neighborhood that's just way too close to each other. But that still doesn't explain some of the large, extremely large fires that are in all other places of the country. Are those strikes by UKR and this is some random kitchen fire that went out of control? The timing couldn't be worse as far as speculation goes. And of course, and then as the fires, everybody's talking about the fires, the interview, people are halfway through it because it's a 2-hour interview. It was released at like 6 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. Pacific. And then halfway through it, there's fires. And people are like, whoa, did they just attack, or something? Like, did somebody attack? And then there's an announcement. The president will speak soon. My thought is, and I said this on our other videos, that it's like CNN, MSNBC, all of them. Are they going to play a story on how they're putting in speed bumps? Are they going to cover something else when the entire world is on X talking about one thing? How do they not cover that? Well, if you have a presidential speech, that's high up in priority. Well, with this president, if it's the other president, they do a monologue on why it's a very hard decision, but they're not going to play the president's speeches anymore. So with this, again, let's go to the next story. Dex, talk about the angry JB attacks special counsel after damning classified document report. I know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, well, that's just it. He came out and they had this speech they rolled him out in front of the audience. And what's crazy is, he bumbled his way through it, and it's all about, whether or not he was going to be prosecuted for mishandling classified documents. And the report came out and said they weren't going to prosecute him. But part of the line in there was he was old, he was feeble, but he was also couldn't remember things. So they all went after him on that. But nonetheless, he finishes up, he walks away, and they goad him to coming back. And when he comes back, it gets even worse. Yeah, that's the story.
Now, this is directly from the whitehouse.gov, so we can play a couple seconds here. This was...
You were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, watch me. Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
They express concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
A well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. I almost forgot that. But that is what the report said, right? So very convenient timing for this to happen, considering everyone is talking about the interview of the adversary's president. But I'll just keep going here for a second.
I'm well-meaning and I'm an elderly man.
He repeats what he says. I'm well-meaning and I'm an elderly man. It's almost like he's thinking, I'm well-meaning and I'm an elderly man.
I'm well-meaning and I'm an elderly man and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
I have to admit, that was probably the best one-liner that he's had. And that's what I was thinking, like, is this planned? That's the kind of presidential jokes that I was mentioning, like the Boardwalk Empire, if you've ever seen that show, Steve Buscemi or whatever. the whole thing back in the 20s is in politics. It was who was the best baby kisser, handshaker, and joke teller. You know, the popular guy would get it. And if it got serious enough, those jokes wouldn't work. But most of the time they did. If people liked you, you were picked, right? But
That's
Your
what.
memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No, look,
President.
my memory is not good. My memory is fine. You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
and that one too. I just have to play that one more time. Sometimes he does make me laugh, man. His like the dog face pony thing, like it's just.
You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to persuade them? And do you fear that this report will
I don't know why I think that's so funny.
Mr. President.
Memory is fine. You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to persuade them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about you?
Only by some of you.
Israel, sir. Netanyahu says that he has ordered the IDF.
And then, so it would have went fine. It would have went fine right there. I mean, and he goes back.
Israel, sir. Netanyahu says that he has ordered the IDF.
I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip.
And and then let's just get to the
Look, if you, that part right there, he can't think, speak, and find the page in his book at the same time. Literally, watch how slow
Over the top.
he's trying to talk about Gaza, but he needs to get his
think
page
that,
of notes, but he doesn't know how to say what he's got to say.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
And so and then, you know, obviously, if this was like a one-off, but the thing is he's confused different countries, and people go, okay, he's human, right? The same reason they said, oh, I would rather pick him because one of my friends said I'd rather have JB as a prez because, and this was his reasoning. He says, besides all the other stuff, like I think of it like this. A kid should have a president that when kids look up to them, they see somebody who's professional, well-spoken, polite, this and that. And it was purely about having kind of the more image-based of somebody who is polite, good-mannered, whereas he thought that our former president was not like that he was gross and, you know, disgusting. And these are his opinions. And that you know, the whole thing was that you should be like that to be a president, that you should have a certain tone or an attitude as a president. Well, under the same guise, people go, well, yeah, most people want a basic level of being really sharp. This isn't just a regular job. Like, you have to be really sharp to get almost any really good corporate job or any really good government job. If you make mistakes, you not only affect yourself, but you affect thousands of people, possibly millions. In his case, he affects billions. Think about that. Think about if he is not on the tip of it, if he signs something he shouldn't, if he forgets to sign something, if he forgets something, it can affect billions of people. The entire world is really underneath the United States, or at least it was, and it's starting to shift. And it's not fully because of him. It's not because of it, you know, it's because of everything that's happening right now. But with this, he has mistaken countries. He has misspoken, and it's about, oh, well, maybe he's just not a good speaker. We know he's a good speaker. There's 1,000 clips of him just being sharp as a tack. If you go to the 70s, 80s, 90s, this guy could out-talk anybody. He would never make flubs like this. So not even going into some of the more, stuff that during the time when they all do the negative ads, not even going into some of the stuff that he priorly did. So even if you are a supporter, and I know there's people that support JB, some people, they just say they want the lesser of two evils. My point is, though, both sides now are starting to realize like this is a problem. It's not just the right because he's left that they're saying this. Many people are whispering this even on his own side. But is it on purpose? Are they purposely doing this? This made for news. This stole the headlines. And again, we showed you that on another video. Every single headline, even though 50 million people had already watched the interview, that wasn't on front page. The fires in Moscow weren't on front page. This was. Dex, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, when you have a president that is like this, you wonder if he does the wrong thing. I think the other thing you have to consider is when somebody is like this, that really means other people are making the decisions because he probably can't. And that's a scary thought because that means the people aren't in power. Other people are, which goes back to an age-old
who's in charge
theory that we've always had. Like, isn't there somebody else manning the puppet strings? And this makes it very clear that there is.
So, everything that's happening right now, I don't think that, it's not exactly, everything is upside down right now. I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Energy. Again, this is a solar generator that can not only back up your power. If you lose your power, you can keep business as usual, but it also can be expanded up to 96 batteries for as much power as you want to store. And it can, of course, be altered. You can actually add features. Just like Lego bricks, you can add in different bricks to do different features. The standard set by itself, you're probably going to get what you need. But if you want to add things like UPS or uninterrupted power supply, you can get a brick for that. In fact, that UPS one I highly suggest because that has a rapid charger. Essentially, when you plug it into the wall, you can charge a full 1,000 watt battery in about 45 minutes or less. It is really incredible how fast you can charge it. And then that battery, I mean, it depends on what you're running. If you're lighting a campsite, you could light it for a freaking week with LEDs. But as far as the one that I recommend, I do now recommend this because they're shifting towards the tactical. The tactical is going to be the standard going forward. And I think a lot of companies are going to end up trying to emulate what they did. This is made with the finest components. It's made with the best wires. It's made with the best metals. It's made with the best lithium. This is, again, one of the best solar generators on the market. It is reliable. We know this because the U.S. Army has actually chosen this over a ton of competitors to get the STTR Phase 2 contract. In fact, they believed in Energy so much that they ended up designing this with them with the Air Force Research Laboratory. So they don't care about if it's pretty or if it's colorful or if it's, if it's even cheap. They care if it runs when it needs to. They care if it turns on and turns off and it generates power. It's got 1,500 pound latches. That's going to be one of the big things, the difference between the other ones. And then the heated batteries, stainless steel frame, and then water and dust resistant. So go check it out. All of the same different mods and things. They're all going to be intercompatible in the future is what I've been told. So if you already have one or the other, you can, again, there's going to be tons of options. So you'll be able to mix and match at some point. Go to marfooglenews.com. Be ready for a wait, though. Lithium is being fought over. I'd get it sooner than later. All of these kind of tech products are going to go up in price over the years. This will last decades as far as how it's built. It's built like appliances used to be. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It's quiet. Nobody's going to hear it. And it doesn't require gas from a gas station, especially if we all lose power. Those gas stations are going to be useless. So, again, unless you can store 1,000 gallons of gas, then this is a great option because you'll have unlimited power. And then, let's see here. Dex, go over Putin's visit to Turkey is reportedly postponed.
So he's not going, apparently now. It's got pushed back, is what they said. But it seems kind of interesting. And the way things are running at the moment, he was scheduled to go. We talked about it last week, but now they've announced that the visit, Putin was to visit Turkey in February, and citing that that's now being pushed back. So it was supposed to be February 7th. The visit's probably going to be April, maybe early May, but it's not actually scheduled. So this may be a cancellation, just disguised as a pushback.
I wonder if it has anything to do with, maybe they couldn't do both that and the Tucker thing. Maybe the Tucker thing had to be moved around or something. I don't know. And then top U.S. firms that invested $3 billion in Chinese military tech revealed by House panel investigation. U.S. venture capital firms have sunk at least $3 billion in Chinese tech companies that have aided the communist government and its military, as well as the ongoing the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, according to the Thursday report by a bipartisan House panel. The House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, released findings from its probe of 5 arms that supported Beijing's military, enabled human rights abuses, and boosted China's semiconductor sector. So not only they say that they are supporting the most horrid stuff, but they're also saying that they're actually helping with their tech sector and their chip production. The investments by GGV Capital, GSR Ventures, Qualcomm Ventures, Sequoia Capital China, and Walden International totaled more than $1.9 billion in Chinese artificial intelligence companies and $1 billion in more than 150 semiconductor firms. So again, you've got $1 billion over here, almost $2 billion over there in Chinese artificial intelligence. And this is when they are saying that we are behind in 37 out of 44 key areas in advanced technology. We have these companies actually supporting them instead of supporting us. What happened to JB's statement in his speech a couple years ago that you'll see soon we're going to go back to Made in America? Well, maybe too late. But the lawmakers say their findings are merely scratch the surface of the danger that American investment into Chinese industry poses to our national security. The committee's findings suggest that there are billions of dollars beyond these captured in the report that have flowed into PRC companies that support the PRC's military, People's Republic of China, digital authoritarianism. So it's not a great thing. The 66-page report, I don't know if, did we link that? If anybody is interested, we can try to see if we can get access to that and share it. But these reports that are put out, everybody, again, I would push you to. I do believe that China is behind a lot of this, but I will also say this. Just like everybody says, it's like, oh, well, so everybody, all of the media lied to you through these years, but then when it's something that you do believe in, all of a sudden you believe the mainstream media, you believe the legacy media. I take everything with a grain of salt, and I think that everybody should too, even when it's something that confirms your bias. As far as this goes, this is pretty factual. It is on paper, they have supported the Chinese government. So that's not good, especially when we're behind. It's stupid stuff like this that it's just like, how did they let this happen? Who knows, though? By the way, thank you. It's me. President Putin was able to sit for 2 hours or so without shaking or holding a table. He appeared in good health. I recall reading articles stating he had such poor health. Any thoughts on this? I do have thoughts on this. The Telegram channel that is supposedly run by former KGB or S whatever it is, they are the ones who originated that. And all of legacy media and mainstream media went with that story when it came directly from an unverified Telegram channel. So we don't know that. The stories like that Putin has somebody that follows him with him no matter where he is, even on planes, into other countries, and grabs the stool out of his toilet. This is a real story. Grabs the stool out of the toilet so nobody can go in after him and grab it out and test it for cancer. This was a real story that came out across the planet. It's like, those are the kind of stories that came out. That he is, such horrid health, all of this. I don't know if they were trying to make him look worse than what we currently have, but it's weird because, yeah, you see him for 2 hours. A lot of people have been bringing up, though, and I will say this. When you look at him compared to the, 10, 15 years ago, gosh, he changed. It's like his head shape changed. He went from having like an oval head to like a ball head. I can't describe it any better. Like, go look at older pictures of him. In fact, look at the pictures of him shaking hands with Bush or shaking hands with Putin or Barbara Walters or any of these people. A lot of people say that he was actually handsome and now he's not, so they think that he's not actually him. That's a little bit crazier, but it's up to you what you believe. So yeah, as far as my thoughts on it, yeah, he sat there for 2 hours. That doesn't prove that he doesn't have something, but I also think this. The governments of the world and, the very, 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 very rich, just like Magic Johnson survived AIDS and HIV, I bet you that there's different treatments when you have, an extra couple zeros on your bank account. Just saying. If you do get something, there's probably even better things than what is public, especially if you run a government that could be testing stuff that they don't have to release to the public. As far as cancer goes, cancer is one of the biggest moneymakers in the world, along with other medical things going on. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you over on DLive. Again, thank you, Cloud Pharrell. Beer Juice, thank you for the Ninja Genie. I appreciate that. Thank you. And you didn't even write anything. Thank you, Beer Juice. We've got Board Troll, DFW Jackie, Dewey Osborne, Master Bruce. We've got Scooby Doo Right. Hey, thank you. And thank you for being here every night, Scooby. I appreciate you. And thank you. Scoobs is awesome. So, and then thank you, Genius by Birth. Very much appreciate that. Thank you for the super. It says, what happened to the 60,000 pounds of missing ammonium nitrate? I love that you guys think of it like this. Genius by Birth. To anybody that didn't know about that story, 60,000 pounds of missing ammonium nitrate, and I think it was 60,000. It was that or 30,000 bags, and it was 2 pounds each or something. Went missing. It's the stuff that it's the same stuff that was involved in making the Dex. Do you remember if it was the 93 Boom Boom event with Timothy, or was it the other one? I always get those two confused.
Yes, and it was also the stuff that was in the port at that explosion over there in Beirut.
Yeah, that one. Gosh. And no, there was never this. I think one of the last stories that they said, because it was on a train, there was an actual public theory that maybe like somebody poked a hole in the bottom of the train and it just the powder just slowly dripped out over thousands of miles or something. Like something out of a cartoon when Wile E. Coyote's walking with a bag and somebody pokes it with the stick and it leaves a flammable trail all the way behind him. And the buzzer, lights it on fire or something. No, we don't. And with what is currently happening, it is good to remember things like that because that could play into something later. If somebody comes across the border, say they can't get things over, if they get it here and they make stuff here, they don't need to. Especially stuff like that where, people that were born and raised here were able to do it. Think about people from other countries who also have such a crazy, belief in what they believe in that they're willing to give themselves up for a cause and then times that by thousands, if not millions. That's a scary thought. Going over the video we just put out yesterday or the day before, the sheriff saying that they're not just expecting like one thing to happen. They're expecting things to happen in every state. They're thinking about, hey, we've trained for a multiple this event, but we've never trained for having multiple go on at the same time. So very obviously they've been told something like that. If you haven't watched that video, and by the way, has anybody seen that covered in any kind of big coverage of that? Everybody's talking about everything else. Has anybody seen that? That video, again, is over on marfooglenews.com/news, or not /news, marfooglenews.com. And in fact, I'll just show you real quick. This is the video right here. Intel Sheriff Insider reveals FBI meeting details. Get prepared. Go watch that if you haven't already, and I'm not kidding you. That is something you should share with your friends and family members. We read the transcript of the most important parts. We will show you a little part of the video. That is a sheriff that just went to a meeting with 3,300 other sheriffs that went to D.C., says that the president is not meeting with any of the sheriffs across the country. They're not meeting with the president of the sheriffs, the vice president, not the whole group, anything. They're also not meeting. The president refuses to meet with the police chiefs around the country. What he says is what they know is when things go down, when things go really south, that the local police and these things have saved people in other countries. When everything else falls apart, the government's busy doing everything elsewhere, that it's the local police and the sheriffs and those kind of people that keep things going. How have we treated the police over the last 4 years? I'll ask you that. And most people with common sense know that we haven't treated them very well. So yeah, very good question, Genius by Birth. And then Dex, let's go over the Zelensky removes his top general.
Yeah, so we kind of knew this was coming, but he did it. So he's now out. And General Zaluni will be replaced by General Oleksandr Syrskyi. I'm sure I'm butchering those names. Apologies. But look, due to the fact that they weren't making the progress they want, they got rid of him. At least that's what Zelensky was saying. So he's out, new guy's in. And of course, the Pentagon's already come out and said they're happy to work with the new general and support him in any way they can.
So who knows? In 2 weeks, we might find out, oh, by the way, there's a random house filled with $2 billion in cash. But we'll see, I guess. And then engineer accused of stealing U.S. secret government tech used to detect nuclear missiles. Dex, can you actually also cover this one? I'm going to switch batteries here.
Yeah, so we've talked quite a bit about everybody stealing things for China and for others. So a former engineer was arrested and now with federal charges alleging that he stole secret technology that was developed by the U.S. government to detect nuclear missile launches and to track ballistic and even track hypersonics. So that's what came out of the Justice Department. Cheng Guang Gong, 57, of San Jose, California, was arrested Tuesday.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I had a technical glitch on my end, but charged with that. So he's, basically stealing, and we assume it's going to China. And Gong is a native of China. So there we go.
There's no shortage of those stories. Before we move on, just want to make sure you guys know. Also, check out Wage's video. He is covering the massive events that are happening right now. There was a huge event that just went down. And in fact, I should almost kind of cover his text. But says that X flares are possible. He doesn't really say that very often, but I don't know why, because I haven't seen his video yet. But says, whoa, man, there's been so much activity. It would be cool. Oh, that's me, sir. Once I get it in all the data, I may have been able to give an update. Going live, X flares possible. So that will be linked on the show. That before that, it was just a few days ago where there was another event. Massive halo eruption fired right at us. This is a huge filament eruption, and judging by the model, it will hit us directly in 2 to 3 days. Radiation storm may also happen, going live in 10 minutes. That was a few days ago. I can look back over the last 2 weeks, and we've gotten so many updates on this just in the last month. So this is solar cycle 25. This is why another reason why people are actually why people are getting prepped. As far as getting prepped, something like this not only protects you against a solar event or a Carrington level event, but it also protects you against an EMP. It can be wired into your car very easily. It takes about 10 minutes to do. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground or a part of your frame. and then you just bolt it in to the side of your block, or again to a place, open place in your engine. Now, if they run out of the EMP shield, the original size, for a few bucks more, it is actually smaller, but it has all the same protection. It can fit into more areas. They have shrunk it down to be about a quarter of the size. It can be fit in the palm of your hand, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before either an EMP or a CME can fry your device. So remember that they have those if they end up running out of the regular EMP shield. You'll definitely want to get them sooner than later. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, that will keep your car running, your truck running, your boats, RVs, homes, generators, gas, and solar in the case of the Flex. They also have in stock the Flex version that is made directly for the Flex 1500. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use that code MARF to save $50 off and to help our independent broadcast. And then, Dex, do you want to go to the end of nuclear secrecy? Underground
this
tests.
is kind of cool. This is very cool. So at least if it's true, what they're saying is in the past, up until now, we were never able to tell if an earthquake was an earthquake or potentially a nuclear detonation. Or better said, we could never tell if an underground nuclear detonation was not just an earthquake. And in other words, you could get away with doing those things, and we wouldn't necessarily know. Now they have developed technology and statistical modeling, et cetera, where they think that they can predict with 99% accuracy the difference between an explosion that has taken place versus seismic activity. Now, for those of you that don't know, when a nuke is set off underground, which has been done many times it's been publicized and talked about and told that it was testing, and then many times, they may have found out through espionage, like they would find out that Kim was going to do one, and then they would see it on the seismic meters. But when that happens underground, it actually registers, and it shows up on the seismologist equipment, seismographs, or I don't remember the term for it, but seismometers, I think is the proper term. Sorry. And they can measure that, the waves coming from that. And it looks very much like when, the earth quakes and shakes and crashes into itself or moves and shifts things around and causes other seismic behavior. So it registers the same, but and I'm not going to get into the geeky weeds here. If you guys want to go dive deep in it, feel free. But the interesting point is, why now? Well, and if it is why now, it's a good thing, because at least now we can know. But will they really go out and tell us? Because we've heard a lot of strange booms underground. People have felt small quakes in areas that you don't normally feel them. A lot of people have wondered, is that something happening underground? So the real question I ask is, now that they say they have this technology, will it be transparently used so that everyone can know the truth? Or will it just be, held back and protected like a lot of the other things are when it comes to earthquakes and information about them? So interesting findings, but question if we'll see the truth on it.
Did you ever see the video that went viral about a week ago? It was of the ground. It looks like it's in Las Vegas, and it shows like a chunk of the concrete pop up, and then it looks like tremors. Do you ever remember the worm movie Tremors? It looks like there's a worm crawling underneath it. Did they ever find out what that was?
I don't know if they found out that it was a true video either, but yeah, it looked kind of creepy. But my thought, if it was legit, it was some sort of heat escaping that was pushing it up, a thermal or something.
I thought it could be,
I don't know,
some sort of oil or something, and the effect on the light made it just, something was bubbling up, maybe a tank underneath the ground, something overheated and then expanded or something. But of course, the first things that were put out was there's UFOs under the ground, whatever else. I would almost think Vegas is also where they're doing the Hyperloop with, I don't know if they're done with that, but Elon Musk was doing a Hyperloop and has like a big Bertha thing tunneling a hole. So, it could be something like that, but it would be much deeper, right? This was something coming, it was, probably a foot underneath the ground, and a big old chunk of asphalt comes popping out, and you see what looks like a worm crawling underground. You guys can go watch the video yourself. Dex, can we possibly link that? I can. I think I retweeted it, but if not, I can send you the link. Either way, it's very freaky looking, to say the least. If it's fake, then they did a pretty good job. If it's real, then still gets us very confused about what the heck that was. And then data of half the population of France stolen in its largest ever cyber attack. This is what we know. This is what we also know. France, when we did our research on all of our allies that have been hit by cyber attacks, just a couple weeks ago, we covered all of the countries. France did have some sort of effect, but they didn't have, I think it was like they didn't have a critical infrastructure attack, or at least a big public one, whereas every other ally did. Now, we know France actually made a comment a few months ago saying, we're actually going to distance ourselves from the USA after, just a day or two after Macron met directly with Xi Jinping. Macron's made many public statements sounding a lot like Trudeau, basically saying, Xi's got a good head on his shoulders type of thing, but also has made several of these kind of moves that make it look like they are copying China, or almost like somebody's pulling the strings in China. The retirement age thing, during all of that, there were several laws and bills passed that they're like, whoa, that's actually what they're doing in China. So France, of course, there's always been like the stereotype that France people don't like American people, like, an American, they suck. But is it really deeper than that? Are they going to two-face us when it comes to wartime? Are they going to end up being, a traitor or be on the side of China or something if we go to World War? Some think they will. I know some of you are from a French background. Hopefully you're not offended, but again, just saying what people are saying. But yeah, over 33 million people in France, nearly half of its population, have been impacted by the country's biggest ever cyber attack. Who was it? Is this a tit for tat? Was it China? Or was it the US as like a big FU? Was it a private group? Of course, they say, it says this is the first time there's been a breach on such a scale. Yann Padova, a lawyer specializing in digital data protection and former Secretary General of the French Data Protection Authority. According to Padova, this is the biggest breach. It says this is what we know. They say two companies, Viamedis and Almeris, are service providers for medical insurance companies. They were victims of a cyber attack that occurred 5 days apart in the beginning of February. So this was just a couple days ago. According to the first provider, Viamedis, the hackers phished and used healthcare professionals' logins to get into the system. Sounds like something China would do. Again, with all of the data that they're compiling on every single human on the planet, they can do a lot of damage with that now. People think that they don't care. I don't care if they have my medical records. I don't care if they have my address and all of my stuff. You will in the future, because when it's used against you, you're not even going to realize how many ways that your information can be used against you. We're even talking about psych profiles that could affect how weapons are used with something like neurostrike, where they could use a frequency and point it at you and make you stop walking. Things like that are no longer theoretical. They are now happening. So, really crazy stuff to even think that it exists. And if you don't have prep food, marfugglenews.com/prep. Freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. Dex, thank you for today. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Much love, brother.
And Carol, thank you for the super sticker. I really appreciate you as well. Thank you again, everybody over on DLive. I appreciate all of you guys. Beer Juice, thank you again. You are the top supporter over on DLive. And then thank you over on YouTube. Appreciate you, Genius by Birth. You are the top supporter over on YouTube. So thank you, and thank you. Of course, go to the website, go check it out, and join us on Jams. If you sit right tight in the chat, you will be ported over. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Love you guys. Be safe. It's not a shoutro. It's not an outro. It's a shoutro.
close the border. Now that we see that we losing law and order. Now that the war is inching closer. Soon Uncle Sam will be handing out posters. Now they wanna flip the script and wanna close the border. Now that we see that we losing law and order. Now that the war is inching closer. Soon Uncle Sam will be handing out posters. Now they wanna flip the script and wanna close the border. Now that we see that we losing law and order. Now that the war is inching closer. Soon Uncle Sam will be handing out posters. Now they wanna flip the script and wanna close the border. Now that we see that we losing law and order.
All right, thank you, Genius by birth.
Genius by birth, everybody heard you, but mine on the best on the earth. I say hello, hello, I say hello, everybody already know. Hey, we the Donald Massey, a D-Bar Road and the Captain Basky.